In everyday life, pressure arrives without announcement. A delayed project at work, an argument with a colleague, or sudden bad news can change how people act in moments. Many believe their normal behavior shows their real character, but these situations often reveal something more accurate. You see the difference between the image they maintain and how they respond when things feel out of control. This gap creates real problems in trust, teamwork, and personal peace. Over time, it becomes exhausting to deal with people whose reactions shift dramatically under stress. Stoicism addresses this directly by training us to observe these moments carefully and use them to strengthen our own stability and judgment. If this connects with what you experience, please like this video and subscribe for more clear, practical Stoic lessons. Number 1. When small inconveniences disrupt their plans. Under minor delays or schedule changes, some people reveal how heavily they depend on external conditions staying exactly as expected. Their frustration builds fast because they have connected their emotional state to smooth outcomes rather than to their own internal standards. This attachment makes ordinary disruptions feel like serious threats. Stoicism teaches that the real obstacle is not the delay itself, but the demand that life must follow our preferences. When someone stays composed, they demonstrate they have practiced focusing only on their own actions and attitude. True character becomes visible in the immediate response. The person who complains loudly, blames others, or allows the inconvenience to ruin their entire day shows they lack a strong internal foundation. They treat neutral events as personal offenses. In contrast, the individual who accepts the change, makes necessary adjustments, and continues without unnecessary drama reveals genuine self-control. This calm approach does not come from indifference, but from understanding what is truly within their power. Repeated exposure to small setbacks forms a clear pattern over time. People who consistently point fingers at external factors for their rising irritation demonstrate they have not developed the discipline to separate events from their judgments about those events. Marcus Aurelius wrote repeatedly about reminding himself that other people's behavior and the flow of circumstances remain outside our direct control. Only our response belongs to us. Those who live this principle gain real freedom from daily annoyances. The speed and manner of recovery after disruption tell us a great deal. Instant blame shifting or extended periods of sulking and negativity signal a mind still ruled by outside conditions. Patient acceptance, followed by practical action without complaint, indicates someone who has turned ordinary difficulties into regular training for resilience. This consistent practice builds a steady character that does not collapse under minor pressure. Over months and years, these small moments create predictable behavior. The person who maintains courtesy, clear thinking, and respect for others, even when plans fall apart, possesses a rare quality. An inner stability that does not depend on favorable circumstances. They do not act calm for show. They have trained their mind so that calm becomes their default state. Ultimately, the way someone handles these petty disruptions serves as a reliable predictor for how they will face larger challenges. Those who master small pressures develop the foundation needed to protect their principles and kindness during serious adversity. This preparation is one of the most practical benefits of applying Stoicism daily. Number 2. When receiving unexpected criticism. Direct and unexpected criticism removes polished appearances more quickly than most situations. Some people immediately defend themselves, deflect responsibility, or launch counterattacks because they have tied their sense of worth to constant external approval. Stoicism encourages us to examine the criticism honestly for any truth it contains while refusing to let it determine our value or direction. Those who can listen without emotional collapse or explosive reaction show they possess solid self-understanding. Character reveals itself clearly in how someone handles feedback they did not invite. The person who becomes defensive or demands perfection from others but cannot accept it themselves demonstrates they are still performing a version of themselves rather than living authentically. On the other hand, the individual who thanks the critic and reflects on the points privately displays both strength and humility operating together in a balanced way. Repeated experiences with criticism expose whether someone uses it for real growth or turns it into lasting resentment. Those dominated by ego treat every comment as a direct threat to their image and status. The practicing Stoic views criticism as neutral information, sometimes wrong, sometimes useful, but never as something that forces them to abandon their chosen path or values. The real depth appears in the space between public behavior and private thoughts. Someone who appears polite during the criticism but later gossips, obsesses, or seeks revenge reveals a deep inconsistency in their character. True steadiness means the external words lose their power to disturb inner tranquility for any significant length of time. Stoicism emphasizes a crucial distinction. We have far less control over our reputation than we believe, but complete control over our character and actions. People who instantly show pettiness, rage, or withdrawal under criticism have not yet fully accepted this separation. Those who remain focused on self-improvement demonstrate they are actively building something durable and independent of others' opinions. This pattern of response serves as one of the most reliable measures of inner development. Consistent openness to honest feedback, combined with calm discernment about what to accept, marks a person genuinely moving toward wisdom. It clearly separates those who simply study Stoic ideas from those who apply them effectively when their ego faces real challenge. Number 3. When witnessing others' success or recognition. The success or public recognition of peers can expose hidden envy or authentic goodwill within a very short time. Some offer polite words while their tone and energy carry clear resentment because they constantly measure their own life against others instead of against their personal standards. Stoicism teaches that another person's achievement does not reduce your own progress or worth unless you choose to interpret it that way. True character shows in the ability to celebrate others without shifting into secret comparison or self-pity. The person who quickly redirects conversation back to their own struggles or downplays the achievement reveals unresolved insecurity. The Stoic responds with sincere acknowledgement because they understand that real value comes from virtue, consistent effort, and moral character rather than external rankings or praise. This form of social pressure reveals whether one's sense of self-worth is rooted internally or borrowed from comparisons. Those who become colder, more competitive, or quietly bitter show they have placed their happiness in outcomes and status rather than in disciplined effort and personal integrity. Such reactions often damage relationships gradually, but significantly over time. Depth of character becomes visible more in private reflections than in public statements. Someone who feels genuine happiness for others' progress has developed a mind that rejects scarcity thinking. They recognize that different people receive different results and timelines, and that fighting this reality only creates unnecessary suffering. Stoic practice builds the steady habit of staying within your own circle of control. People who reveal bitterness or diminished effort when others succeed demonstrate they are still fighting battles far outside that circle. Those who remain steady use the moment as a useful reminder to strengthen their own discipline and focus. This particular test proves especially revealing because it feels deeply personal, even though it rarely involves direct competition. Consistent generosity of spirit and maintained effort under such pressure indicate a mature character that finds satisfaction in its own daily improvement rather than in relative position or temporary recognition. Number 4. During unexpected financial or material setbacks. Financial pressure or sudden material loss removes pretense faster than almost any other situation. Some people panic, assign blame, or begin cutting ethical corners when resources become limited because they have built much of their identity around possessions, comfort, and status. Stoicism reminds us that wealth and material security are preferred indifference, beneficial when present, but never essential for a good and meaningful life. Character reveals itself strongly in whether someone maintains their integrity when doing so becomes personally inconvenient. The individual who turns irritable, dishonest, or falls into despair shows that their peace depended heavily on external stability. The practicing Stoic accepts the reality of the setback, makes practical adjustments without complaint, and works to protect their core values and relationships. Repeated financial stresses expose long-term patterns in thinking and behavior. Those who consistently spiral into victimhood or aggression demonstrate they never developed meaningful inner reserves of resilience. Others who respond with creativity, calm problem-solving, and maintain responsibility prove they have regularly practiced detachment from outcomes they cannot guarantee. The true depth appears in how they treat the people around them during the difficult period. Kindness and respect that suddenly disappear when money is tight reveal a conditional character based on circumstances. Steadfast fairness, responsibility, and consideration point to someone grounded firmly in principle instead of temporary conditions. Stoicism does not suggest we pretend that losses do not cause pain or practical difficulty. It teaches us to refuse to let those losses corrupt our reason, damage our relationships, or lower our standards of conduct. People who pass this test quietly strengthen their freedom from the unpredictable changes of fortune. Over many such experiences, a person builds either accumulating resentment or growing resilience. The path of resilience creates a life that remains far less shaken by job changes, market shifts, unexpected costs, or economic uncertainty, offering a practical form of freedom that anyone can develop through consistent mental training. Number 5. When their authority or status is challenged. Challenges to authority, position, or social standing expose character with particular speed and clarity. Some respond by becoming controlling, vindictive, or emotionally withdrawn because they have confused temporary external roles with their actual inner worth. Stoicism teaches that genuine authority and strength come from self-command and reason, not from titles, power, or social approval. Character becomes evident in whether someone can accept disagreement or criticism without punishing or marginalizing the other person. The individual who lashes out, manipulates, or demands unquestioning deference shows they attempt to rule through fear or status rather than through earned respect. The Stoic listens carefully, responds with reason when appropriate, and remains internally untroubled even if the challenge persists. This type of pressure reveals whether humility was merely a public performance or a practiced habit. Those who require constant deference and become fragile when it is withheld expose deep insecurity. Those who stay fair, composed, and open demonstrate they do not depend on the role or status to understand their own value. Real depth emerges in private behavior when public image feels safe. Someone who continues plotting, holding long grudges, or seeking indirect revenge shows a mind still enslaved to reputation and control. The wise person releases what they cannot control and returns their attention to justice, reason, and personal improvement. Historical Stoic figures maintained dignity and effectiveness precisely because they avoided over-identifying with power or position. In modern life, this means treating every challenge to status as useful information rather than as a personal attack requiring defense at all costs. Consistent steadiness when authority faces challenge builds lasting trust and self-respect that no external title or position can ever provide. It clearly separates those who crave control over others from those who have achieved mastery over themselves, forming the true foundation of genuine strength, influence, and inner peace. This is the practical work of Stoicism, using pressure as a mirror to see ourselves and others more clearly, then choosing wiser responses with each opportunity. Apply these observations consistently in your daily life. Keep practicing. Number 6. When facing unjust treatment or betrayal. Unjust treatment or betrayal by someone close often exposes the foundation of a person's character within moments. Some immediately seek revenge, withdraw completely, or become consumed by bitterness because they have placed too much of their emotional security in the reliability of others. Stoicism draws a clear line between what others do and our own response, teaching that betrayal reveals the other person's character more than it defines ours. The steady individual processes the pain without letting it poison their judgment or daily actions. True character shows in whether someone demands perfect loyalty from others while failing to uphold their own standards under pressure. The vengeful or overly suspicious person demonstrates they have not yet built independence from external validation. In contrast, the one who acknowledges the hurt, learns the lesson, and continues with dignity reveals a mind rooted in self-respect rather than dependence on others' behavior. Repeated experiences with unfairness create visible patterns. Those who carry grudges for years or allow one betrayal to make them cynical toward everyone show a failure to separate isolated event from their broader view of life. Epictetus taught that it is not the actions of others that disturb us, but our opinions about them. People who internalize this maintain freedom even after deep disappointment. The depth appears in how quickly they return to rational action. Prolonged rumination or emotional shutdown signals a character still ruled by past events. Measured acceptance combined with adjusted boundaries and continued personal growth indicates someone actively practicing Stoic resilience. Over time, these moments test the consistency of one's values. The person who treats others with fairness, even after being wrong, possesses inner strength that cannot be taken away. They refuse to let someone else's poor character lower their own. This response to injustice ultimately shapes long-term peace. Those who master it build relationships based on realism rather than naive trust, while protecting their own virtue. It turns painful experiences into quiet opportunities for deeper self-mastery and clearer boundaries. Number 7. When dealing with personal failure or rejection. Personal failure or outright rejection strips away external achievements and reveals what remains. Some collapse into self-pity, blame external factors, or abandon their efforts entirely because they have connected their identity too closely to success and approval. Stoicism views failure as neutral feedback rather than a verdict on worth, encouraging us to examine our efforts while preserving our capacity for continued action. Character emerges in the immediate aftermath. The person who becomes defensive, makes excuses, or turns harsh toward themselves and others shows fragility tied to outcomes. The Stoic, however, analyzes what can be improved, accepts what cannot, and resumes effort without dramatic emotional swings. This approach builds real confidence based on process rather than results. Repeated setbacks expose whether someone treats failure as temporary information or permanent identity. Those who spiral into despair or quit demonstrate they never developed internal motivation independent of praise or quick wins. Others who persist calmly prove they have trained their mind to value virtue and effort above fluctuating results. Depth reveals itself in private moments after public failure. Someone who maintains self-respect and kindness toward others despite rejection has cultivated genuine self-worth. Public positivity that masks private self-destruction shows inconsistency and unfinished inner work. Stoicism emphasizes focusing on what is up to us, our preparations, attitude, and next actions. People who reveal anger or helplessness under rejection show they are still fighting outside their sphere of control. Those who stay composed use the experience to refine their approach and strengthen discipline. This pattern becomes a powerful indicator of future resilience. Consistent recovery with maintained standards creates a character capable of sustained progress through life's inevitable ups and downs, turning rejection into fuel for wiser living rather than permanent discouragement. Number 8. During moments of physical exhaustion or extreme tiredness. Extreme tiredness or physical exhaustion removes social filters and reveals raw character quickly. Some become irritable, impatient, or irresponsible because fatigue lowers their ability to maintain their usual performance. Stoicism recognizes the body's limits while training the mind to remain steady even when physical resources are depleted. The composed person acknowledges tiredness without using it as justification for poor conduct. True character shows in whether someone preserves basic respect and responsibility when energy is low. The individual who snaps at others, neglects duties, or makes careless decisions demonstrates that their discipline was conditional on feeling good. In contrast, the one who slows down thoughtfully, communicates clearly, and protects their standards reveals deeper self-mastery. Repeated exhaustion creates telling patterns. Those who consistently use tiredness as an excuse for rudeness or lowered ethics show they have not built strong habits that persist beyond comfort. Those who maintain courtesy and sound judgment, even when drained, prove they have practiced stoic endurance and self-awareness. The real depth appears in small choices made under fatigue. Someone who chooses rest without self-pity or pushes through without recklessness has developed balance. Explosive reactions or total shutdown reveal a mind that lacks reserves for difficult conditions. Stoic practice includes preparing for these states by building routines and expectations that account for human limitations. People who reveal selfishness or chaos when tired show incomplete training. Those who remain reliable strengthen trust in themselves and others. Over many tired moments, this builds either declining standards or quiet strength. The stronger path creates a character that functions with integrity regardless of physical state. A practical advantage in demanding careers, parenting, or long-term goals. Number 9. When encountering moral temptations or ethical gray areas. Moral temptation or ambiguous ethical situations expose character with unmistakable clarity. Some bend rules, justify shortcuts, or prioritize personal gain because they have not firmly anchored their actions in consistent principles. Stoicism demands strict adherence to virtue even when no one is watching, treating integrity as non-negotiable rather than situational. Character reveals itself in the private decision-making process. The person who rationalizes dishonesty for convenience or advantage shows their ethics are flexible under pressure. The Stoic refuses the temptation outright, recognizing that one compromise weakens the entire structure of their character. Repeated ethical challenges form clear long-term patterns. Those who frequently choose the easier, less honest path demonstrate they value short-term benefits over self-respect. Others who consistently choose virtue, even at personal cost, prove they have internalized Stoic values as their foundation. Depth appears in the reasoning used during temptation. Someone who feels the pull but returns to reason and justice has practiced moral strength. Immediate surrender without internal struggle reveals shallow values that were never deeply held. Stoicism teaches that our character is built in these small, often invisible choices. People who reveal opportunism under moral pressure show they have not yet separated true good from apparent advantage. Those who stand firm build unshakable self-trust. This area of pressure is particularly important because it affects reputation, relationships, and inner peace over decades. Consistent moral steadiness creates a life of quiet confidence and freedom from regret, the ultimate practical reward of Stoic discipline. Number 10. In high-stakes group conflict or crisis situations. High-stakes group conflicts or crises reveal leadership qualities and true character rapidly. Some become authoritarian, panic, or shift blame to protect themselves because they prioritize personal image over collective good. Stoicism guides us to focus on rational action, fairness, and courage regardless of the surrounding chaos. The steady person maintains clarity and helps stabilize the situation without seeking personal glory. True character shows in whether someone puts reason and team welfare above ego during tension. The individual who dominates conversations, ignores input, or abandons responsibility under pressure demonstrates insecurity masked as strength. The Stoic listens, contributes thoughtfully, and supports fair solutions, even when unpopular. Repeated group crises expose sustainable patterns. Those who consistently escalate drama or withdraw show they lack emotional regulation for collective challenges. Others who remain calm, decisive, and collaborative prove they have trained themselves for difficult shared circumstances. The depth emerges in how they treat people with less power during the crisis. Respect that vanishes under pressure reveals conditional character. Consistent fairness and encouragement indicate someone grounded in principle rather than status or fear. Stoic figures like Marcus Aurelius led through crises by maintaining personal discipline amid external disorder. Modern application means treating every conflict as practice for maintaining reason when emotions run high. People who reveal pettiness here have more inner work to do. Consistent composure and group pressure builds genuine influence and self-respect. It separates those who perform leadership from those who embody it. This capacity creates stronger teams, families, and communities while protecting individual tranquility. Pressure is one of the most honest teachers we have. Across all these situations, from small daily inconveniences to major crises, people reveal their true character not through their words or polished routines, but through their immediate, unguarded responses. What emerges under stress shows the real distance between the person they present to the world and the person they actually are. Stoicism does not judge these revelations harshly. Instead, it invites us to observe them calmly in ourselves and others, using them as clear information to guide our own development and expectations. The practical power of this awareness lies in consistent application. Every moment of pressure becomes an opportunity to strengthen your inner citadel. By training yourself to respond with reason rather than reaction, you gradually close the gap between your ideals and your behavior. You learn to protect your peace, maintain your principles, and build relationships based on realism instead of illusion. This work does not make life free of difficulty, but it makes you far less shaken by it. Over time, you become someone whose character remains steady when others falter. Start today by paying quiet attention to how you and those around you respond when control slips. Small, repeated practice in these ordinary moments creates the foundation for unshakable strength. Stoicism is not about perfection. It is about steady progress toward wisdom and resilience. Keep observing, keep adjusting, and keep building. The more you do this, the clearer your path becomes, and the freer you grow. Thank you for watching. Like this video if it served you. Subscribe for more practical Stoic lessons, and I will see you in the next one.